Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reflowing this laptop motherboard. This laptop motherboard is out of a Toshiba laptop from 2009 to probably 2010 or maybe 2011. It's an AMD based board, takes DDR3 RAM, takes the smaller size mini PCI Express cards. This is where the Wi-Fi card goes. Socket S1 CPU has a Turion 2 X2 processor. It's a Northbridge, and there's a Southbridge chip. Basically, this motherboard here, when you turn on the system, you get fans, but nothing else. No video, nothing. And this computer was actually traded in for that reason, for some repairs to her other computer. So this is mine now to mess with. Anyways, I've looked at the other side. I've never really done a video of reflowing a laptop board before, so I figured I'd do one. Because the process is slightly different in regards to a few steps. Now obviously on this motherboard, as I mentioned, you know, the Wi-Fi card is right here and the CMOS battery is right there. Both are in very close proximity to the Northbridge chip. So I'll remove both of those. Same goes for a processor. It's really normal to move the processor when you're doing these kinds of repairs like this. The RAM is back here, though I took it off just to be safe. Basically, on desktop motherboards, I use this cup-shaped piece of aluminum foil to deflect heat from parts that don't need it. But on laptop motherboards, I do a step further in regards to the aluminum foil. I have this piece here that is cut with a square in the center of it. The Northbridge chip actually protrude through. So what I do here is I wrap this around the motherboard to further protect it, because obviously you don't want heat going to parts you don't need it to go to. And you could damage plastic parts and other parts really quick if you're not careful. So anyways, now we're wrapping this around. Try to get it as straight as possible. Now obviously this is a good reason why you would want to remove the CMOS battery, because you want to get all the the electrical currents off of the board, because you're putting metal all over this board by wrapping it in aluminum foil. You can see this aluminum foil has been used multiple times. I think I've reflowed 3 laptop motherboards with this foil. Anyways, now the laptop motherboard is wrapped. You don't have to worry about getting the whole back side. It's mainly the front side that's your biggest concern. This aluminum foil, what it does is it helps deflect heat away from, as I mentioned, it deflects heat away from parts that don't need it. It acts kind of like an insulator. And see, what else I do is I add this on top in addition, as it helps deflect heat up and away. Now before I go any further, let me go ahead and discuss a little bit more about reflowing motherboards. Please keep in mind this is a hit or miss repair. Success rate is roughly 50 to 70% in my experiences. What I've started doing in the past few months that I've been doing reflows is, in addition to the standard procedure with the heat gun, is I've added solder paste flux to the Northbridge chip. Because basically what happens here is, what causes your motherboard to just randomly play dead is there's a lot of little bitty BGA ball connections up under that chip. And what happens is they get cracks over time from rapid changes in temperature from, let's say, an overheating chip. And when you get enough cracks, it causes issues. I mean, it could cause a number of different issues, like, let's say, artifacts on your screen, not all the colors working. I mean, there's a number of different things. In worst case scenario is the computer starts, the fans start up, but nothing else happens. This happens with both desktops and laptops. And this is also the cause of the red ring of death on Xbox 360s. Just figured to let you know that too, because that's another popular issue that you'll find. And basically, the reflow process, some people do it in the oven, which I don't recommend. I use a heat gun. And what it does is it heats up that chip and heats up the solder beneath it to do what's called reflow it back to where it's supposed to be. It fills in the voids of the cracks and things like that. And for some odd reason, as I mentioned, it's a hit or miss repair. Sometimes, the solder, for some reason, reforms cracks, and within a week or so, you'll have the same issue again. So, anyways, I know I've been talking for like over 6 minutes now, so let's go ahead and get started. I just wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way, so that way, just in case some of you guys who've never know what a reflow process is, that's what it is, and you're about to see when it take place. So basically, what I'm going to do here is plug in my heat gun. I'm going to take a Q-tip in this solder paste flux, and I'm going to dab some paste flux onto the chip. Now this paste flux acts like a metal cleaner, and it kind of helps solder bond to the contacts. Generally, solder off of a spool does contain some of this. And sometimes if you're having an issue with soldering sticking to like a certain piece of metal, you can add this in addition, and that can actually help. Now it can be kind of messy too. It's kind of messy to get off, so we don't want to put too much there. But basically the heat melts that stuff, and it's like a liquid when it's hot. And it penetrates into that chip and it helps reflow it. So anyways, I'm going to keep the camera back a good little ways because I don't want the camera to get overheated from this heat gun. Basically, the way I do it is I start with a minute of low heat, then go to about 3 minutes of high heat, and then an additional minute of low heat. I'm going to do a minute and a half on low to start out because it's kind of chilly outside. Do 3 minutes of high and 1 minute of low, and that starts the cool down process. And once the motherboard is cooled down, we'll clean that chip up, reinstall the CPU cooler and other things, and put the laptop back together. Now obviously I didn't include the process of tearing the laptop down because every laptop's a little bit different, but this process is generally the same. So let's go ahead and get started. Now my timing's not going to be the most accurate because I'm just looking at the camera's clock. Now that top piece of aluminum foil is bouncing around a bit because obviously it's just sitting on top of the other piece. And that solid paste flux is already starting to melt down just a little bit. Trying to keep this still for this point. I'm going to cut this off, see if I can do anything with that foil, make it stay a little bit more still. It's kind of aggravating when it bounces around like that. Now this thing isn't brutally hot just yet because, like I mentioned, I just did a minute and a half or so of this low heat. I'm going to shut this door. let's go ahead and start the high procedure for a little over 3 minutes. Now you want to keep this heat gun in a circular motion. Do not leave it still. Because if you leave it still, you will definitely fry something from applying way too much heat. Now generally with laptop motherboards, you're a little more okay if you keep it still for a brief second. Though with desktop motherboards where you have electrolytic capacitors and other things, it can definitely cause other issues. Well, a little over 2 minutes ago. My batteries are a little low in the camera, hopefully it'll last. Do another minute of low. Alrighty. Pretty much now we need to just let this thing cool down. Which, considering as cool as it is out here today, shouldn't be too much of an issue. There's a lower piece of foil. We'll go ahead and unrack this board. Probably a little hot to the touch right now. But you can see that solder paste flux looks a bit different now than it did earlier. Like it absorbed some of it. Now my personal concern about this one today was the plastic that Toshiba puts on the back of their boards. I was worried it was going to melt it, but it looks fine to me. And just as I expected, the motherboard is cool to the touch in places where the heat doesn't need to go, but it's still pretty hot right there near the North Bridge chip. Most definitely. So basically now what we need to do is just let it cool down, clean the flux off of the North Bridge chip, which was the component that had to be reflowed, and put all the stuff back on the board, such as your cooler, your CPU, your RAM, your Wi-Fi card, stuff like that, and put this thing back together into the laptop.